During World War II, soldiers didn't always win with bigger armies. Sometimes victory came from brilliant tricks. In fact, Allied troops once built an entire fake army out of rubber, and the enemy fell for it. Welcome to the Historical Facts channel, where we uncover the stories that shaped our world today. We're exploring one of the most fascinating sides of World War II, the clever tactics used to outsmart their enemies. This wasn't just a war of firepower. It was a war of creativity, misdirection, and quick thinking. From inflatable tanks to whispered codes, these tactics changed the map of battle in ways few textbooks emphasize. If you love learning surprising facts about history, make sure to like this video, comment your thoughts, and subscribe to the Historical Facts channel. Hit the bell so you don't miss the next deep dive, and tell us in the comments which trick surprised you most. To understand why these tactics mattered, let's set the scene. Soldiers faced overwhelming enemy forces, unforgiving terrain, limited technology, and the psychological strain of constant danger. Armies were stretched thin, logistics could fail, radio comms could be intercepted, and raw firepower wasn't always available. So commanders began to treat battle as a puzzle. If you couldn't outshoot the enemy, you could outthink them. Imagine trying to hide an entire division in plain sight, or convincing an opponent that an invasion would strike somewhere it never would. The choices were often ingenious, and sometimes beautifully simple. The result of art, theater, and improvisation merged with warfare. First, the U.S. Ghost Army, officially the 23rd Headquarters Special Troops. This was a traveling troupe of artists, set designers, sound engineers, and radio actors whose mission was not to kill, but to convince. They created inflatable Sherman tanks and trucks, wooden jeeps, even dummy artillery, then placed them where German reconnaissance expected real formations. Painted tarps and studio-quality mock-ups stood beside carefully positioned crews. The unit also used sound trucks, huge speakers that played tape recordings of troop movement and vehicle noise, recorded in real motor pools to make the illusion convincing from miles away. But the trick wasn't just foam and canvas. Ghost Army operators staged fake radio traffic, phony officers, scripted conversations, and even false logistic requests, sent in plausible formats to be intercepted by German direction finding. They used skilled radio actors who mimicked unit call signs and cadence. One of the finest examples, a staged deployment that drew German attention away from an actual Allied withdrawal, saving thousands of lives. The unit's work remained classified for decades, and when it finally became public, veterans described it like a trope of wartime magicians. The Soviets had a doctrine called maskirovka, a systematic approach to concealment, deception, and misdirection. The idea extended far beyond camouflage paint. It combined tactical concealment with operational deception and political duplicity. Maskirovka included dummy positions, smoke screens to mask movement, falsified radio chatter, and the deliberate leaking of false plans to make the enemy believe a different operational picture. Entire airfields were sometimes replicated with fake aircraft and lighting rigs. At the tactical level, troops covered tanks in padded nets and local foliage, changed convoy patterns, and moved under moonless nights. A famous use was during the 1943-44 campaigns, where Soviet forces hid preparations for offensive by planning false supply dumps and establishing dummy command posts. German aerial reconnaissance might show activity in one sector, the Maskirovka success, while real forces massed elsewhere. It was not just about hiding, it was about telling a full story the enemy would believe. In Britain, a covert game of trust and betrayal ran alongside the physical war. The double-cross system turned captured German spies into controlled sources of misinformation. The goal was to feed Berlin false intelligence that would be accepted as genuine. Perhaps the most legendary was Juan Pujol Garcia, codenamed Garbo. He built a network of fictional agents and fed the Germans elaborate, but carefully crafted false reports. He even invented sub-agents and detailed patrol movements. Garbo's fabrications helped convince German planners that the Allied invasion might strike elsewhere. Double agents were kept under close watch, and handlers carefully calibrated how much truth to mix with lies. Small nuggets of accurate information made the falsehoods believable. Before D-Day, double-cross efforts were central to convincing Hitler
Roosevelt verlangt endlich die Bereitwilligkeit, ihm die Zusicherung zu geben, dass die deutschen Streitkräfte das Staatsgebiet
that Normandy was faint, a deception that kept major German formations from moving to the beaches when the Allies landed. Across occupied Europe and Asia, small resistance groups waged a very different war, guerrilla tactics, which turned knowledge of terrain, light mobility, and local support into strategic weaponry. In France, the resistance sabotaged rail lines and communications, delaying German reinforcements during key Allied operations. Partisans in Yugoslavia, led by Tito, harried supply lines and tied down thousands of Axis troops who might otherwise have fought in the front. In the Philippines and the Pacific Islands, locals and small units used ambushes, booby traps, and intelligence gathering to make a small force disproportionately dangerous. These fighters were not uniformed. They blended into civilian life, struck at night, and melted away before the enemy could bring armor to bear. A single destroyed bridge could delay logistics for weeks. A well-informed ambush could force a convoy to reroute and reveal vulnerability. Guerrillas also provided crucial intelligence to Allied commanders. A local scout who knew a mountain pass could be worth an entire reconnaissance platoon. When standard equipment failed, soldiers improvised. Failed ingenuity turned junk into weapons. Crews modified trucks into armored transports, wielded scrap to create ad hoc armor, and jury-rigged radios with spare parts. The British and Soviets both fielded improvised flamethrower variants and anti-tank weapons born out of necessity. Uncaptured equipment for parts, reverse engineer fuses, and adapt enemy hardware to friendly doctrine. Beyond hardware, improvisation included tactical tech, glider-borne engineers landing behind lines to open bridges, pilots who learned to navigate by rivers and shadows, medics fashioning splints from scrap wood. The most important ingredient was creative problem solving, the willingness to test a risky idea because survival depended on it. One moment stands above the rest. Operation Fortitude, the deception that protected D-Day. Operation Fortitude was an Allied strategic deception that created a fictional 1st U.S. Army Group, FUSAG, supposedly commanded by General Patton, positioned in southeast England and poised to invade the Pas-de-Calais. The plan used inflatable tanks, dummy landing craft, fake radio traffic, and a double-cross network to feed German intelligence. Fake orders, false troop movements, and controlled leaks suggested Normandy was a diversion. German high command believed the threat at Pas-de-Calais was real and kept reinforcements there, even after the landings began on June 6, 1944. That hesitation gave Allied forces critical time to secure the beaches and expand the foothold. Fortitude combined many of the tricks we've described: theatrical mock-ups, sound deception, double agents, and psychological manipulation into a single decisive stroke. It's a rare example where illusion directly shaped operational success. The Soviet Night Witches, the 588th Night Bomber Regiment, turned limitations into terror, flying slow wood and canvas biplanes called PL-2s. These all-female crews operated at night. The planes were slow and vulnerable, but that slow speed was an asset. It allowed pilots to shut down engines and glide silently to the target, then restart and drop their bombs. German troops reported that sudden ghost-like sounds preceded bomb impacts. The silence made the planes terrifying. Night witches flew multiple sorties at night, returned for more bombs, and relied on intimate knowledge of local geography. Their tactics emphasized stealth and psychological effect. The goal was not only destruction, but to unsettle enemy morale. They became legends, a reminder that bravery and craft could make obsolete machines lethal. Some of the greatest deceptions happened on the desk rather than the battlefield. Bletchley Park in the UK hosted mathematicians, linguists, and early computer engineers who attacked enemy codes. Most famously, the German Enigma. Breaking Enigma didn't just reveal troop locations. It let Allied commanders shape outcomes by anticipating moves. Intelligence gleaned from decrypted radio traffic was called Ultra, and was carefully used to avoid revealing to the Germans that their codes had been broken. That meant timing attacks so that intercepted radio traffic still looked plausible, or acting on intelligence only when acting wouldn't reveal the source. Code breaking was a blend of mathematics, engineering, and secrecy, with people like Alan Turing and many unsung contributors developing machines and techniques to automate code attacks. Their work shortened campaigns, saved convoys, and turned signals into strategy. Camouflage in World War II became both art and science. Soldiers used mud, leaves, burlap, paint, and hand-started ghillie suits to dissolve into backgrounds. Snipers trained to feel the landscape, to move like a branch in the wind. Large-scale camouflage included netting over vehicles and mock-up foliage on tanks to break up outlines in aerial photos. Some units even painted roads and farmsteads to appear abandoned from above, masking movement corridors. Camouflage experts studied how light, shadow, and seasonal color shifts exposed or hid shapes, sometimes painting entire stretches of coastline to defeat reconnaissance photography. The payoff was huge. A hidden sniper could halt a convoy, and massed units could pass enemy patrols within yards. Camouflage turned visibility into a tactical advantage. Not everyone left a crater. Leaflets, radio broadcasts, and staged rumors could fracture morale. Allied and Axis powers both invested in propaganda, but Allied psychological campaigns often focused on disinformation targeted at frontline units. Leaflets might exaggerate losses, promise humane surrender terms, or suggest that supplies had ran out. Small messages with outsized impact. There were more creative operations too. Operation Cornflakes was an Allied effort to insert fake mail into German postal routes to spread demoralization, forgeries, and rumors. Loudspeakers broadcast messages designed to confuse or coax troops to drop weapons, and fake radio chatter could make a sector appear heavily reinforced before an attack. Psychological warfare was surgical. Messages tailored to the enemy's language, culture, and weak points. A frightened unit is less effective, and fear can ripple faster than any tank. As we see, World War II wasn't won by strength alone. It was shaped by creativity, deception, and the remarkable intelligence of ordinary soldiers. From inflatable tanks and fake radio chatter, to silent bombers and cryptographers, these tactics changed the course of battles, and in some cases entire campaigns. The war forced people to invent on the fly, improvise against odds, and weaponize psychology and artistry. Thank you for watching the Historical Facts channel. If you enjoyed this deep dive into wartime strategy, please like, comment, and subscribe so you never miss a new episode. Tell us below, which tactic would you have used if you were a wartime planner?